Hello, my friends. Welcome back once again. I am very happy you are here today. Imagine standing in the middle of a snowy battlefield in Europe. The air is cold and silent. Soldiers wait nervously in the distance. And there, on a hill nearby, stands a man with his hands behind his back, thinking deeply about war, power, and destiny. He is not very tall. He does not wear a golden crown at this moment. Yet millions of people across Europe know his name and fear his armies. How did this man rise from a small island family to become one of the most famous rulers in world history? Today, we are going to travel into the past and discover the extraordinary story of Napoleon Bonaparte. It is a story filled with ambition, intelligence, victory, failure, and determination. If you enjoy learning English through powerful historical stories, then stay with me and let us begin this unforgettable journey together. Napoleon Bonaparte was born in 1769 on the island of Corsica in the Mediterranean Sea. Corsica was beautiful, but it was not wealthy or powerful. The island had recently become part of France, and many local people still felt different from the French citizens living on the mainland. Napoleon's family belonged to the lower nobility, but they did not have much money. His father, Carlo Bonaparte, worked as a lawyer, while his mother, Letizia, was a strict and disciplined woman who expected her children to work hard and remain strong during difficult times. Napoleon was one of 8 children in the family. From a young age, he appeared serious, quiet, and thoughtful. He loved reading books about famous leaders, ancient battles, and great empires from history. While other children played games, Napoleon often preferred to sit alone and study. He dreamed of becoming successful and respected one day. His parents recognized his intelligence and decided to give him an opportunity that would completely change his future. When Napoleon was only 9 years old, he left Corsica and traveled to France to attend military school. This experience was not easy for him. He spoke French with a strong Corsican accent, and many students laughed at him because he seemed different. Some boys treated him like an outsider and made fun of his background. Napoleon felt lonely and isolated, but instead of giving up, he focused even more on his studies. At school, Napoleon became especially skilled in mathematics, geography, and military science. He studied history carefully and admired leaders who achieved greatness through intelligence and discipline. Slowly, he developed a quiet confidence. He realized that although he was different from the other boys, he could still surpass them through hard work and determination. By the age of 16, Napoleon graduated from military school and officially became an officer in the French army. Around this time, France was entering a period of great unrest and change. The country faced serious economic problems. Ordinary people struggled with poverty and hunger, while wealthy nobles enjoyed luxurious lives. Anger spread throughout France, and in 1789 the French Revolution began. The revolution completely transformed French society. Kings and queens lost power, violence filled the streets, and the old political system collapsed. For many people, the revolution was frightening and chaotic, but for Napoleon, it also created opportunity. He understood that during uncertain times, talented individuals could rise quickly. Napoleon served in several military campaigns and impressed his commanders with his courage and strategic thinking. He made decisions rapidly and inspired confidence in the soldiers around him. His success on the battlefield brought him attention from powerful political leaders. At only 24 years old, Napoleon became a general, an incredible achievement for someone so young. His victories in Italy made him a national hero. French citizens admired him because he brought success and pride to the country during difficult times. Napoleon's reputation continued growing after he led a military expedition to Egypt. Although that campaign faced many challenges, it increased his fame and strengthened his image as a brilliant commander. By the late 1790s, France remained unstable politically. Governments changed constantly, and many citizens wanted strong leadership. Napoleon believed he could restore order and guide the country toward greatness. In 1799, He participated in a political takeover known as a coup. The operation succeeded quickly, and Napoleon became the most powerful leader in France. Over the next few years, Napoleon reorganized the government and introduced many reforms. He improved education, changed legal systems, built roads, and strengthened the economy. One of his most important achievements was the Napoleonic Code, a new set of laws that influenced many countries around the world. Napoleon believed in efficiency, discipline, and strong administration. Then in 1804, something extraordinary happened. In a grand ceremony inside Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of France. Instead of allowing the Pope to place the crown on his head, Napoleon took the crown himself and placed it there proudly. This moment shocked many people across Europe. It symbolized Napoleon's belief that his power came from his own ability and ambition, rather than from ancient traditions. As emperor, Napoleon controlled much of Europe through military victories and political alliances. His armies defeated powerful countries, including Austria and Prussia. Everywhere he went, he spread French influence and revolutionary ideas. Some people admired him because he modernized governments and ended old feudal systems. Others feared him because his wars caused enormous destruction and suffering. Napoleon was an extraordinary military strategist. He moved his armies quickly, surprised enemies with unexpected attacks, and understood battlefields better than most commanders of his time. For many years he seemed almost unstoppable. Yet success also increased his ambition. Napoleon always wanted more territory, more influence, and more power. In 1812 he made the decision that would change everything. Napoleon invaded Russia with an enormous army of more than 600,000 soldiers. It was one of the largest military forces Europe had ever seen. At first the campaign appeared successful, because the Russian army continued retreating deeper into the country instead of fighting directly. However, the Russians used a dangerous strategy. As they retreated, they destroyed crops, villages, and supplies, so Napoleon's army could not find food or shelter. Eventually Napoleon entered Moscow, but the city was nearly empty, and much of it burned in flames. The Russian winter became a nightmare for Napoleon's soldiers. Temperatures dropped far below freezing. Men suffered from hunger, disease, exhaustion, and cold so severe that thousands died without fighting a single battle. Horses collapsed in the snow. Supplies disappeared. Napoleon realized he could not remain in Russia and ordered a retreat. The retreat from Russia became one of the greatest disasters in military history. Only a small part of Napoleon's original army returned safely. European nations watching this catastrophe finally understood that Napoleon could be defeated. Countries such as Britain, Russia, Austria, and Prussia joined together against him. Although Napoleon still demonstrated remarkable skill in battle, his empire was weakening. His enemies continued advancing toward France. In 1814, they captured Paris, and Napoleon was forced to give up power. He was sent into exile on the island of Elba in the Mediterranean Sea. For many leaders, exile would have meant the end of the story. But Napoleon was not ready to disappear quietly. Less than a year later, he escaped from Elba and returned to France. As he marched toward Paris, thousands of soldiers and citizens joined him once again. This dramatic return became known as the 100 Days. Europe's rulers reacted immediately. They gathered armies to stop Napoleon before he could rebuild his empire. The final confrontation came in 1815 at the Battle of Waterloo in present-day Belgium. Napoleon faced British and Allied forces led by the Duke of Wellington. The battle lasted for many difficult hours. Napoleon fought with determination, but his enemies were too strong and too organized. Eventually his army collapsed, and he suffered a final defeat. This time, there would be no second return. After Waterloo, Napoleon was sent far away to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic Ocean. Unlike Elba, St. Helena was isolated and heavily guarded. Napoleon spent the last years of his life there, far from the glory and excitement that once surrounded him. During exile, Napoleon reflected on his achievements and mistakes. He spoke with visitors, wrote about his experiences, and remembered the years when he controlled much of Europe. In 1821, he died on St. Helena at the age of 51. Napoleon's life remains one of the most fascinating stories in world history. He rose from modest beginnings and became emperor through intelligence, ambition, and relentless effort. He changed laws, governments, and military strategy across Europe. Even today, historians continue debating whether he was a hero, a dictator, or something in between. The truth is that Napoleon was a deeply complicated person. He achieved remarkable things, but his wars also caused tremendous suffering. He inspired loyalty and admiration, yet many people feared his hunger for power. His life reminds us that greatness often comes with difficult consequences. Still, there is something powerful in Napoleon's journey that speaks to people everywhere. He began life as an outsider from a small island. Others mocked him because he sounded different and came from a place considered unimportant. Yet, he refused to let those opinions define his future. He studied constantly, worked harder than those around him, and believed he could create a different life for himself. Maybe you can understand that feeling too. Perhaps English is not your first language. Maybe sometimes learning feels difficult or slow. But every new word you learn, and every story you understand, is progress. Like Napoleon during his school years, you are building confidence, step by step. Stories from history help us learn much more than facts. They teach us about ambition, courage, mistakes, and perseverance. They remind us that human beings are capable of incredible achievements, but also capable of serious errors. Through these stories, we better understand both history and ourselves. Thank you for joining me today on this journey through the life of Napoleon Bonaparte. I hope you enjoyed listening and practicing your English with this story. If this lesson helped you, please continue supporting the channel and sharing these stories with other learners around the world. You can also leave a comment and tell us what you think about Napoleon. Was he a brilliant leader, or did ambition lead him too far? I would love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep learning, keep listening, and never stop exploring the amazing stories hidden inside history.